Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel. This is the channel that is all about learning. In this channel, we learn everything from Python development, web development, e-commerce development, and lately we've been doing a video series on the OpenAI API, all right? So if you're new to this channel, make sure that you always check out the description box underneath the video that you're watching because we always have a lot of useful information in there. So if you hear me saying in the video, I'm going to link it in the description below. Basically, all you have to do is open up that box and click that show more button and it will open up and then you'll see a whole lot of information. We generally have timestamps to all our videos, which means that you do not have to watch the entire video. You could just jump ahead to the section of the video that you want to watch. And also, if you come back in the future and you want to remind yourself of something, you can just use those timestamps to skip ahead to the parts of the videos that you want to watch, okay? And we also have then, if you scroll a little bit lower, our social media channels, and pay close attention to our Medium publication because we generally write up a written tutorial on just about every video that we do over here. And if you click on that link, you will see the version of the written up tutorial. And in some cases, we'll have a GitHub link also as well to the code, okay? So I don't want to get questions about where's the code for the video. If the link is not in the description to the GitHub, then the code doesn't exist because not everything requires a GitHub code, okay? So let's get started. Remember, guys, to support this channel by liking the videos, okay? We provide all this content to you for free. So please help us by liking the video, help us by leaving a comment. If there's something that you want us to cover, definitely we consider a lot of the comments that we get. Make sure that you comment and you like and you subscribe to this channel and let's get learning, okay? So in this video, we are going to be doing what we call we're going to do like an interesting part of the OpenAI API, which is the OpenAI Codex, okay? So far, we have done the completion part of the OpenAI API. We have done the classification part of the OpenAI API. We're still going to do maybe a little bit of the chat box in the future and, language translation. I mean, there's a lot you can really do with this OpenAI. But today, guys, I want to cover the Codex, okay? So I'm not going to cover it in full. I'm really just going to skim through the top, and in the future, in the videos on this channel, I will go into a little bit more detail and cover certain sections because there is definitely a whole lot that you can do as far as the Codex is concerned. So what is the OpenAI Codex? The OpenAI Codex is the part of the OpenAI API that deals with code, okay? So the OpenAI API has also trained AI models that are trained on coding, specifically Python coding, but there's also trained in JavaScript and some other coding languages, but we're going to focus in this video on the Python coding, okay? So you can basically like write normal text, like you can tell the thing what you want, like I want a website that is going to show this and this, and the OpenAI model that's trained in coding can write that code for you, in the way that you will be able to then execute it and produce the product that you wanna produce. I think this is completely going to revolutionize the way that people are coding because it's going to definitely grant access to a lot of people that don't know the details of coding and haven't learned coding, because you can get the program to do something for you by just telling it what you want it to write, and then it can write that code for you, okay? So this is like taking no code to the next level, all right? Because we've seen how no code has expanded in the last couple of years, okay? So imagine if you were not even dealing with no code and you were just dealing with tell the thing what you want it to do and it does it for you. I think this is revolutionary, okay? So the OpenAI team have been working on this for a couple of years, and they did mention that they were inspired actually by some of the use cases within their original GPT-3 models, where people were actually using that to develop, coding, training and specializing training their models into be able to write coding. So they thought they would work on that and improve it and then produce a specific, a model that is just, based on that is going to be trained specifically to deal with the different languages and code, okay? So in order to get started with this coding API, it is not available to everybody openly like the normal OpenAI. It is sort of like what the normal OpenAI used to be before, where you had to request access to it because they sort of want to control how many people have access to the API, sort of the usages. I'm sure they're sort of like measuring and calculating, how many people are using this thing and what they're using it for, because also they don't want people to abuse the system, and they want to be able to, if they have to put controls in place, how are people going to abuse it, and then how are they going to put those controls in place? So I'm assuming they're probably testing all of this out on the Codex front, like they did with the normal GPT-3 front. And after a while, it will probably be open to everybody, but you can still get access if you request it. Just like it used to be with the original OpenAI, where you could get access if you requested it, you can get access. So I'm going to link this in the description below, all right? You can click on this link and you will come to this page over here, and they have a little bit of an explanation. There is also a video, a live demo video, where they show you what you can do with the thing. But basically what you need to do is to click this button here that says join the waiting list, all right? And then you're going to come to a form like this, all right? And it's very, very simple. I did this about 2 weeks ago. All right, so you just put in your first name and your last name, your email address, and what you're gonna do this for, whether you're learning, you're just exploring, you're building a product, and why you're excited, the ideas you're gonna do this with, and then you have a GitHub profile. This is optional. You can just enter it there and then click join the waiting list. So I did this about 2 weeks ago, all right, and then this week I was so excited to get an email from them saying that I have been granted access. So I don't think it's complicated. I think it's very similar to what happened before with the OpenAI, where you could just do a request to the beta access list, and they sort of go through it in about 2 weeks or so. You're gonna get a response and they will allow you to have access. I mean, this for me was easier than trying to get Twitter API keys. Okay, Twitter API keys nowadays is like a flipping nightmare, right? But this was even easier than that. All I did was complete this form, and about 2 weeks later I got an email that looks like this. I've taken a screenshot of it. You are invited to the OpenAI Codex private beta. Okay, you can now access Codex via the API in addition to all the GPT-3 models that are already there during this initial period. Okay, the Codex models are offered for free. So this is really exciting, because right now you can do just about anything that you want to do on the Codex models for free. Okay, they're not charging you for it. But of course, I don't want to then go and commit myself into building an app that I'm charging people for if I'm not quite sure what the cost structure is going to look like. So maybe you can just use this to build something that maybe you can also offer for free until you figure out how much it's going to cost to get access to this, and then at that stage maybe you can charge people for that. All right, so I'm going to close this because I already got access to this. And when you get this email, you just click on the accept invite. What will happen is that they will then just say take you to another page where you accept again, and then the OpenAI models, the Codex models, are going to be listed alongside your normal GPT-3 models. All right, so let me show you what that looks like. So if you go to the normal OpenAI website, like that one over there, all right, and you go to get started, this is where you normally sign in. This is a normal sign-in method that you would have used to sign into OpenAI. You would log in to your normal account and you would continue, and then you would find a page like this. All right, so on this page, this is like your dashboard or your landing page where you land in. And if you go into the playground, for example, to have a look at all the things you can do, all right, you will see these are all the models that you have access to at the top over there. All right, and by the way, the old DaVinci models and the old sort of ADM models, they've already been discontinued. So what used to be called the new, what used to be called, this is like the new models, which were the beta models. They've now been made the official default models. Even though you can still access the older engines, these are the ones that are being recommended now, and they are the improved ones. Okay, so you might want to go to your old code and update your old models. If you've looked at our tutorials and you've checked some of the code that we gave you where we were specifying the old models, or we were specifying the beta models, all right, so you can change that section and replace it with text DaVinci. If you're using DaVinci, you just need to say text DaVinci 001 instead of that beta version 3 DaVinci wara. Remember that. Okay, so you can change that. And now if you have access to the Codex, you will see underneath you now have the Codex models down there. Okay, so this is not available for everybody, so you might not see this if you don't have access, but if you do apply for this, and you will see this then you can like click on it and then you can start working with these models over here. So I'm going to let you do the application and I'm going to give you about 2 weeks. All right. And then in about 2-3 weeks time, I'm going to come back and then we're going to start doing tutorials on this Codex platform. But today I'm going to still show you a couple of things that you can already do that are really interesting to just get you excited, to get you, ready to start working on this thing. I'm going to show you some really cool things you can already do with this. All right. So there is some helpful sort of playgrounds that they've created for you, especially on the JavaScript end. All right, so I just want to show you, if you open up these models here, like, and you just hover over the DaVinci 001, you will see over here, they've got the JavaScript sandbox. Okay, so the sandbox is sort of like, it's an online JavaScript sort of like execution, compiler type engine, all right, where you can actually run your JavaScript code online and it will sort of compile it for you, all right? So I'm going to click on that sandbox and I'm going to open it and then I'm going to like, show you what I'm talking about. So this is basically what, if you watch that demo video, where's now that page that I was on, let me search for it. Okay, so if you lose it, you can search for it this way. Okay, OpenAI Codex, yeah, there it is. All right, so if you lose it, you can come back here. So if you look at this, there's a live video which they do online where they like do all sorts of things, print hello world, blah blah blah. So, and they running it on a sandbox or sort of like an online compiler that looks like this. This online compiler doesn't come with the Codex. Okay, so when you get access to Codex, you basically would give it commands, okay, like Python commands, JavaScript command, whatever it is, and you would run it the way you run a normal model, okay, and it will return to you a string which has the code that it's recommending for you. You would need to take that code and compile it and run it in your own, environment where you need to install whatever the libraries that are required there and then run it, okay? So the Codex doesn't come with the compiler. You have to compile it yourself outside, all right? So a useful thing when you're trying to build applications that are going to be working with Codex is to start sort of wrapping your mind around how you're going to get the compiler, how you can, for example, automate, getting the code in a string, being able to write it into a document, running that document, compiling that code, outputting a result, displaying or doing whatever it is you're doing with the result. So all of that is not included in Codex. All of that is something you're going to have to work with in your application to build. But what Codex gives you is I can write a text and it will take that text and give me back code. What I do with that code is the rest of your own innovation. And I think that's what they're inviting us to think around, building applications around this, and how can we be creative and work with this to make something really, really exciting. But if you go into their sandbox, on this sandbox, they've already pre-built a compiler for JavaScript. Okay, so this is, for example, an example application you could build, right? But this is their sandbox, and it shows you what you can do with with this Codex. So it's sort of like illustrating to you, if you had to build a JavaScript compiler, this is what it would look like. All right, so you would type in your instructions over here. All right, it would run the instructions of, it would rewrite the code. I think the code appears here somewhere, and then it would print. Okay, so let me think of something. All right. Let me think of something that I would want to do over here. Okay, so let's say create a canvas that is 2878 pixels by 1618 pixels. This is an ideal canvas size for like a normal social media post, okay, which is like a landscape, because so it fits very well on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. So let's say you wanted to build something like a, a place where people could like create their own social media posts, by just telling it what they want to create, all right? So create a canvas that is this, in size, okay, and add a header 1 header one, a text in the middle that says welcome to Scolo Online YouTube channel. Welcome to Scolo Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. All right, let's run this and see what happens. All right, so it's gonna take that code and try to develop JavaScript code for you. There it is. This is the code. This is what the code looks like. All right, and it should be executing this code in here, but I don't see it. All right, get context. So where is it? Fill text. I don't see that text. Make the text black. I don't know why I can't see the text. Is it a different color? Okay, I don't see anything. I don't see anything in here. What am I missing? All right, add the following. Okay, make the background color blue. Okay, so the background is blue, but I don't see the text. All right, let's see. This is the canvas get context. The font is Arial. Okay, fill text. Okay, let's try again. Add header one, text to the top left canvas saying welcome to Scolo Online YouTube channel. Okay, let's just do it like that and put a comma there and see if we'll get a text. All right, CTX, what is this? Get context. Okay, so I'm probably not writing. I'm not a JavaScript person, so this is really like I'm not good with this. Okay, so I'm gonna clear that. I'm gonna try putting an image background to this canvas of mine. All right, so let's see. Let me see a good image that I can use. I do have some images in here. Yeah, let's use this image. So this is an image that I want to put in there. All right, so let's go back in here. Okay, create a canvas that is 2878 pixels by 1618 pixels, and make the background image this. All right, let's just paste that. So make that the background image to this canvas of ours. Okay, so we've got a problem here. Let's clear that. Let's try this again. Create a HTML div that is 2878 pixels by 1618 pixels, and make the background image this. Okay, let's put it inside of quote marks and maybe it will understand that better. Okay, there you go. That's much better. So this is huge, eh? So this 2878 by whatever is really big. So let's say 278. Let's clear that. Okay, create a HTML div that is 287 pixels by 162 pixels, and make the background image this. Right, make some space in there. So this is a smaller one. There you go. Okay, so you can even double this. Let's see, what's 2878? It doesn't matter, but you get the idea, right? So this is a bit smaller, and then you can say, add H1 title under the div that says, welcome to Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. There we go. Let's play with that. Let's see. There you go. Welcome to the Scholar Online. Make the text white. There you go. Make the font nicer. So this is quite amazing, right? Like this is like all the things you can do. So if you're good with JavaScript, and JavaScript is not my strength, okay? So I'm trying to read this code and I'm like, I can't even see where it's getting it wrong, because it's not my specialty to code in JavaScript. But if you're a JavaScript guy and this is like your thing, you can play around with this and you can just, text to JavaScript. But this is just a sandbox, okay? So this is pre-built, okay? So maybe what you'd want to do is, and I'm actually going to work on trying to do a sandbox for Python where you could run commands at the bottom, and then it runs via Codex in the background, and then it produces code for you. I think that would be nice. Say like creating a Python sandbox, and then seeing what that code looks like if you run it, like a Python compiler, but without you actually writing the code, just telling it what you want the code to look like. All right, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? So maybe that's a project for the future, but I'm giving you guys 2 weeks to register for your codex, and then maybe that's the kind of projects we're going to build, right? That's going to be really, really excited. I'm really excited about this codex thing, all right? So let's close up that JavaScript sandbox. Let's see what else we can do with this, okay? So I'm going to give credit to this YouTube channel that I came across that built this Python compiler. Okay, so maybe perhaps in one of the videos we're going to do, we will rebuild this compiler, but without you actually giving it code, just giving it text commands, and it actually running those text commands via the Codex API, and actually producing Python code that it then runs and compiles, and then produces for you the output. That would be amazing, don't you think? So maybe we'll build something like that in the future right here on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed and you don't miss it. But this current compiler, the way it works, you would enter any Python code in here. Like let's say you would say your name is equals to Scholar Online, all right? And then you can just say print the name, all right? Print your name, and you can then run it, all right? And then it will just, in the outbox here, it should compile and run the code that you've given it, right? So it's going a little bit slower now. It was working much, much faster earlier on. There you go. And then it will print it out there, okay? So this is like a simple compiler. You can't import code. Like if you try something like, import requests, for example, it's gonna give you an error. It's not gonna run that, because it's gonna say no module name request, and there's no way to actually like install the model in the environment for some reason. So you can run simple code that has the libraries that are pre-existing inside of Python without libraries you have to install via pip. But this is still sufficient for learning online, all right? So we're gonna use this to test some of the code that we're getting from our playground, okay? So what you can do is that when you get to your playground, once you have access, okay, you can go over there, you can pick the thing that you want. Or you can like look at some pre-existing examples. All right, so there are pre-existing examples that are sort of written for you with all the requirements that you can, so you don't have to worry about all the how to adjust all the parameters in there. All right, so let's say you wanted to natural language to Python, right? So do that. Okay, this is an example that can translate natural language to Python. It even changes the response length over there, the temperature. So it does all of the things that, it gets your settings right, the way you need it to run this code. Okay, so this code has got text that is inside of quotation marks, right? It's, we're asking the codex to create a list of first names, create a list of last names, combine them randomly into a list of 100 full names. All right, so let's run this and see what we get. All right, so this code, what it has done is that it says first names, it enters random first names: John, Jane, Corey, Travis, Dave, and then last name: Smith, Doe, Jenkins, Robinson. I'm always struggling with and I can already see a use case for this with a lot of my Django applications where I have to create fake data for my databases. This will be perfect for this, right? Because this is not going to do complex applications. I don't see you can build a Django app, although I've tried building a Flask app on this, but I don't think you can build something like a Django app, for example. But you could write simple code that would take you a long time to, for example, test something in Django. Let's say you had a model of addresses and you wanted to just generate random addresses to put into the database for you to be able to test, for example, the capacity of the database, or maybe you want to check some analytics or things like that. I do a lot of having to generate fake data for my databases to test things out, right? You can do something like this. You can say generate names, generate addresses. All right, give me a list of 100 addresses, give me a list of 100 names, and then you can say this is the model. You can give it the model. All right, these are all the the variables in the model. Please write code that will enter this data into the SQL database. Boom, and then you take that, you run it, and then you modify here and there some little things. But as far as generating this, for example, writing this code would already have taken you 30 minutes, and I can already see a use case for this. So I'm going to copy this code as it is there, and I'm going to run this in here in this Py compiler. All right, and then I'm going to submit it, and then I'm going to see what it's going to do. There you go. It created, I'm assuming this is 100 list of random first and last names: Corey Joe, Mary Moore, Patricia Jenkins, Mariah Jones, John Wright, Joe White. And I think if you run it again, you should get different ones. It shouldn't be the same name. Corey Joe, yes, because every time it should randomize it again. Jane Martin, Charles Jacobs, run it again. Dave Johnson, Jane Arnold. So this is really interesting. So already you can see the power of this thing, and I think this is truly, truly amazing. But instead of this, I'm gonna try and run something else. Okay, I'm gonna run something that is a little bit more complex. Okay, and then we're gonna maybe not be able to run this in the compiler, but we might have to create our own script to run this. Okay, so let's say, and this is like a useful real life scenario, because one of the things that this thing is really good at as well is recommending APIs, because I was going through the documentations and it says, yeah, it can also recommend libraries for you, APIs for you. So let's say you wanted to build an application that is a news website that compiles news articles. All right, and you didn't know where to get the data for that. All right, so I'm going to ask this. I'm going to say, get me a reputable, okay, let me not say get me, let me just say get. All right, get a reputable news API website. All right, get a reputable news API website. I don't know what it is, but some news API website, right? And then generate code to call the API and request, I don't know, let's say 20 of the latest news articles. I could say 100, I could not give it a number, I could tell you whatever I want to tell it. Okay, so get me a news API website, generate a code to call the API and request news articles. All right. Yeah. Print the article, the news stories. Print the news stories so I can see what the news are. Later on, maybe we'll do something else with it, okay? So definitely, I'm going to need this to be a bit longer. And by the way, if you look over here, you will see that the usual limit is 2,000 tokens. You can get up to 4,000. So they allow you more tokens. So I can even like get this to like 2,000, all right? So that, because I don't know how long this code is going to be and I don't want it to be cut in the middle. I'm going to leave everything else the same, all right? And then I'm going to run this code and see what it generates for me. Network error. All right. So there's a network error. I'm going to, let me just copy this so I can refresh this site and hopefully my network will be back. All right. Let's paste that in there. All right. Make sure there's no trailing spaces at the end. It doesn't like that very much. I'm gonna make this 2,000 tokens again. All right, and then let's see if the network is back. Okay. So, get a reputable news API website. Generate the code to the API and get to print the news stories, okay? So to get a reputable news website, there it is. So newsapi.org, top headlines, country, API key. All right, I don't know what it called this API key. Probably I'll probably need to get my own API key. Generate code to call the API and request 20 of the news of the latest articles. Response. Get the response request, print the stories, okay? So let me not print the stories, let me leave it like that, all right? And let me remove all of this, all right? Because I want to test this code, but I want to get it myself from my own API. So what I'm going to do is that, as usual, you can go into the view code and you can see what the code looks like, all right? Get the news API and get 20 stories, and you can copy the code. And remember, you can copy it in any format. You can get the JSON version of the code, all right? You can get the curl version of the code, which is this one. You can get the Node.js version of the code. If you are writing a Node.js application, you can get a Python version of the code, which is this one, okay? Just want to have a look again at the JSON. So this would be like doing a post request, a JSON post request. I'm assuming, I don't know, not sure. So Python for me is just the best way to go. And I've gotten a lot of requests to do this in JavaScript, and I will brush up my JavaScript skills and, maybe do a couple of tutorials, maybe in React. Okay, so a lot of people know React, so perhaps we'll do React in a couple of weeks. So just make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the notifications. And when we get to do React, we will do a lot of these tutorials we have done. We'll redo them in React at some point in the future. Okay, I just have to brush up my skills because I've been a Python developer for a couple of years now, and I had left React, in the dust. Since I learned Python. But anyway, we can dust up those skills and get back to React coding to accommodate everybody that wants to learn this API. Okay, so what you do, you get this and then you copy as usual and then you paste it. Okay, so let's copy all of this and let's get into our thing. The first thing obviously is that you need an OpenAPI key. So when you're running this in the playground like this, you are already logged in as yourself, okay? And as part of you being logged in, you already have an API key. So it's basically using your API key in the background to do this, okay? But if you copy the code, you then have to if you look at the code again, you'll see over here you need the API key. So you're gonna have to get your API key from the thing, okay? And the way you get it is that you go into your personal thing and you go to view API keys and then you copy your API key, okay? And then you can save it in the environment or whichever way that works for you. You can even save it physically in your application, all right? So you can just say, so this is the code that we're gonna run, okay? you can just say OpenAI.API key, and over here you can just paste your API key. All right. So what I've done is that I've pasted my API key inside of the config document. Okay. So then I import the config document, and then I say config.api key. The reason why I do this is that I share this code with a lot of people, and all I have to do is to delete the config document when I share this code and not share the config document, and then people will input their own config document in there and put in their own API key. All right, so I don't hard code it in here. I don't have to worry about all the places the API keys is being used inside of my code. Otherwise, you also put it inside of your environment, okay, which is how they have it in here, operating system get environment. So you can save it in the environment and then access it later when you run the code. So I've already copied and pasted that code. You'll see line 1, get repeatable free news API, get a new line. Number 2, make a request, all right, to the API for the latest news stories. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. And then max tokens, I've got it at 1,000, all right, and maybe I can even make this 1,500. I can make this definitely more, and then leave everything as it was. And then I've already learned what the code looks like. So there's going to be an object called choices in there, and then there's going to be a length of responses. I want the first response, and then I want the text of the first response. If you've watched our previous videos, you'll see how we pass the response to get to this. Okay, otherwise you could just print this response that you get and then figure out yourself how to pass to get to the answer inside of this response. And that's what we're doing here, all right? And if you don't, for example, there's no choices in there, like it returns something like, I don't know, I can't get anything, I can't help you, we will just, if this doesn't happen, we'll return an empty string, okay? And then we run this thing and then we print it. All right, so I'm going to save all of this, and then we're going to run this and print this and see what we get. All right. Right, okay, so what is it called? Codex with 2 X's, all right? So let's run this. By the way, I'm in my environment. I'm in my Python environment where I've already installed requests. I've already installed all OpenAI. So if you're doing this for the first time and you're not with us initially, you need to be in a Python environment. And inside of your Python environment, at a minimum, you need to do pip install. Okay, let me show you there. You need to do pip install OpenAI, okay, because this is the library that deals with OpenAI. Then you also need requests in this specific case, because you'll see that this thing returns when you run it, it does return install request. And like I showed you over here, if you tried to say import requests, it will give you an error that there's no module named requests. So you want to install it first. Okay, so run this. I've already run this, so I'm not going to run it again. So after you've done that, and then you can then do Python codex.py. So you're running that file over there. All right, so I'm going to run it and see what I get. All right. Okay, so this is the code. Okay, import requests. Okay, import JSON. Get the API from the local key with open news API text.rsf API key is equals to that. All right, get the top headlines from the news API. The URL is this. All right, response is request get URL, convert the response to JSON, print the response, print JSON to dumps response, indet is equals to 4. All right, so I'm going to copy this. This is the answer. This is the code, and create a new Python file, all right, and paste in there. And you can see this looks like Python code, right? Import request, import JSON with OpenAPI, this and that, get the API key. So assuming that the API key was saved somewhere in a, in a file, then you get that, So this looks a little bit different from what I would have gotten if I ran this in here, hey? So let's run it in here and see what this gives us. It's giving us something different. Print the article source names, okay? Print data articles. All right, so it's doing the same thing and then you're just going ahead and printing. So every time you sort of get something different from this. So response, get that, data is that, and then print the data, print JSON dumps data, okay, which is where we ended up there. Print JSON dumps data and indent is 4. And then over here, it starts to print the articles. All right, so print, data.articles. Let's say I just wanted to print the article titles. All right, so let's just copy that and said I wanted to print just the titles of the articles. All right, print the article titles. It would get the data. All right, where is the data? This. Okay, this is the data. Response.json. So this is the data. So if I call this data, I can say data, this data is that. Okay, so every time you sort of run it, you get something different, but basically this is the data. So you can get the data as response.json. Or actually I can just, so I don't make mistakes, I'm going to just like copy this whole thing instead, so I don't rename things and then I've missed something. All right, let me paste that. All right, so I want the articles. Actually, I don't want the articles, I want the titles of the articles. I'm not going to get the descriptions and all sorts of things. All right, you can do that. Another thing you can do is that you can save all of this in a JSON file. Obviously, if you're going to run all of this, so let's print the titles. All right, print data.articles at 0.titles. All right, so articles at 0, this tells me that there is more than one article. All right, so there could be at 1, at 2, at 3, at 4, at 5. Okay, so this data articles is a list. Okay, so all articles is equals to this. All right, all articles is equals to data.articles. All right, so you can see over here, then you get data articles at 0, so that's the first one. You get the title, the description, the author, the published at, and so forth and so forth. All right, so if you did this, you would get all the articles. So this is just the title. This is the title of the first article. All right, so I'm actually going to say plus this. Okay, title of the first article is, this is the title of the first article, so it's data articles at 0.title, and then all the articles is that. All right, for article in articles, in all articles. All right, for article in all articles. Actually, what you could just do is, save this in a JSON file. All right, yeah, but that's for another day. Okay, so let's just leave it. Let's leave it like that. Okay, we'll do that later, but let's just make sure that this is actually proper code and this code will run. Okay, so we need to know what is our API key. Okay, from config import API key. So that's assuming that you've got a file called config and that inside of the file called config, you got something called API key. I definitely have a file called config, but I don't have this variable saved in there called API key. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to save that in there. Let me see. Yeah, actually, config.news API key. This is the key that I saved in there. All right, so import that. All right, and then put that in there. So to get a news API key, what you've got to do is just go to this website. All right, go to this website in there. All right, and once you've gone in there, click here. That's this button that says get API key. It's that simple. All right, When you click here, it will ask you for like your email address or whatever, then they immediately give you an API key. If you look at their pricing over here, as a developer, you can get the headlines, you get old articles, and you can make 100 requests in a day. Okay, so that's sufficient for what we're doing. All right, so 100 requests per day, that's it. All right, you're not going to need more than 100 requests a day. So I already registered here to get an API key. I tested this before I did the video. I got the API key. I saved it inside of my config file under this variable called news API key. All right, so inside of the config file, just get this variable called news API key, and then you can edit like that from config, import that, and then we're going to try and run this and see what happens. All right, so right, so then let's clear this and let's see our file. Is this code example.py? Let's run this one. Okay, and see if it's going to print for us. There you go. The title of the first article is Johnny Mitchell plans to follow Neil Young off Spotify, citing lies, the New York Times. So this is from the New York Times. And this is all the articles that it printed. It's a lot of articles. So it got 38 articles. The first one is from the New York Times. That's the author, that's the title, that's the description, that's the URL of the article. All right. You can even like check this, that this is a real news story. You can go in there and have a look at it. All right. There's the article from the New York Times. All right. And you wouldn't even be able to read this article if you didn't, that straight from the New York Times, because you have to subscribe. But with this API, you got the article, okay? You've got the image, you've got the content, all right? You've got the source. There's the next article, all right? That's the next article, CNN, that's the next one. So you can like build an app right now. You can put all of this in a database, like 100 requests a day, that's sufficient. I can run this twice, like maybe 10 times a day, add the articles into a database, and then display from the database on the front page, and people can just read the news articles and then click on it and go to the original website. But then if you get a lot of traffic on that website, you can start selling advertising or whatever else you want to sell, So, and I would never figure this code out on my own without Codex, because Codex helped me figure out how to actually write this code. All right, I'm going to do something else, which is like the hello world of web development, app development, is building a weather app. Okay, so let's see if we can build a weather app. All right, number one, get a free weather API. Okay, 2, okay, write code to request weather data for Johannesburg, South Africa, from the API. Right, let's see what this will generate us. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. Okay, it's not getting me a specific country, but it looks like you're gonna need an app ID or whatever. All right, and then you can print the text. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my original get a reputable. With the news APIs, I had specifically had to put reputable in there because obviously the last thing we want is fake news. All right, get a reputable news API website. Okay, make a request to get the latest news stories. This is exactly what I just did now, but then I'm going to add something else, and I'm going to show you the power of Codex, right? Create a Flask application to display the news stories on the front HTML template. Now that's a bit of a challenge, don't you think? How long would it take you to write code for that? Right? Look at that. What? So, import request from Flask, import render template request. That's your app. Get the API key, get the base URL, configure request app, global API key, base URL, app config. So you would have like a config file that has the news API and the news API base URL. Get the news URL, get the news data, process results, get the author description from the news. So this function processes the results. This one, it gets the news, all right? And then this list goes in there to be processed. This is the home root. And when you go to the home root, it's going to run that function that gets the news. And then it's going to return the news to the front end. That's amazing. And then the sources, I mean, look at that. That's a whole Flask application. Then you're going to copy all of that and you're going to come in here and you're going to create a new file and we're going to call it news flask.py and we're going to put that in there. And this is a complete Flask application. All right, you're going to have to specify obviously your API key and all of those things and the base. But then again, I must mention that for complex apps like this one, because I would say this is a little bit complex, I wouldn't run such a thing if I didn't know Python and I didn't understand what this code is actually doing. Because it's one thing to get an API, an AI to generate code for you. If you don't know coding, you won't know what it's generating for you. So I would say the news API, I mean the Codex API, it's still amazing for being able to get normal coders to get their tasks simplified. Because if I wanted to build this application, it would have taken me forever. But now this has written the code for me. I might have to modify a couple of things here and there. Maybe I don't want to use a base URL. I want to use the same API that I used over here. So I might modify this code a little bit, right, to use that API instead, but I have the skeleton of the code, the whole boilerplate of the code. So it might be just a few edits here and there, all right? And then, I probably have to do the HTML myself, or I can get Codex to write the HTML for me as well, because it is capable of doing that. It's capable of doing JavaScript. I can get it to write my HTML for me as well using JavaScript. So the point I'm making here is that yes, this is useful, but so far, if you're going to use the playground or the API, you have to know coding. It's not going to be useful for somebody who doesn't know coding and want to learn coding via this. However, it is going to be useful if, as a coder like me, I can build then an application that looks like, where is that, JavaScript online compiler for people that don't know coding, who would then just use my application that I do the compiling in the background and making sure that I've installed the libraries and making sure that I parse everything properly. I do the back end heavy lifting for them, and they just see a front end where they enter their text and you generate some code which I run for them and output for them, maybe an HTML which they can just download, or output for them an app which I even load, and I can do a lot of things with this as a developer to build products that people are going to use. So guys, I hope you learned something from this today. And I'm going to end this video here before I reach the 1 hour mark. I wanted it to be a 30-minute video, but of course I talk too much. I can't help myself. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to allow you guys the 2 weeks to go and register for the API key. And we're going to revisit Codex again in about 2 to 3 weeks time, where we're going to, hopefully the majority of you have got your API keys by then, and we can start doing some exciting coding and learning and right here on Scholar Online. So see you guys in about 3 weeks time to continue with Codex, but next week we're going to do another exciting tutorial right here on this channel.